Hi guys! In today's video I'm going to be showing you how to make this super cute festive gingerbread ornament. So if you want to find out how to make this, stick around to find out more. To start, let's go through a list of all the equipment you need. First, I'd recommend greaseproof paper and a pair of scissors. I always like to cover my desk before working with polymer clay to make sure my space stays clean and tidy. Next up, I purchased some specific polymer clay glue to make sure my sculpture stays together after I've baked it in the oven. And finally, this is my polymer clay. This isn't a particularly fancy or expensive set. I just bought this on Amazon. It's for children, so it's really easy to use. It comes with 46 different shades of clay in the box and specialized tools and accessories to help you make your creations. Before making your polymer clay creation, you'll want to start by laying out your baking parchment onto your table. I've weighted mine down to stop it from curling up at the corners. Next, line up the different shades of clay you'll be using for your creation. Unfortunately, I didn't have the right colour for a gingerbread man, so I just had to improvise and mix lots of different colours from brown, beige, pink, white and yellow to make that classic gingerbread colour. If your clay is cold like mine, then it might take a while to warm it up in order to make it more malleable and easy to sculpt. As you can see, I started by mixing my two different shades together. I'll later go on to add different colours into this mix, such as this orange burnt copper colour that you see right now. Unfortunately, this does make your hands turn a funny colour, so make sure to have some wipes or some hand wash on standby as you sculpt. At first, it was slightly difficult to make the colours meld together, but you just need to be persistent and work with it. Keep warming the clay up in your hands, twisting it, pulling it and rolling it up together to make sure you get that nice gingerbread colour. And to be honest, I did kind of like the slightly marbled effect that I had in this clay. It just kind of brought it to life and made it look slightly more 3D. You can just keep adding different colours until you get the colour you want for your gingerbread sculpture. Now it's time to get sculpting. To begin with, I tore off part of the clay that I'd just been rolling and set aside half of it to make the body and the arms later on, but for now I'm starting with the head, which is the largest part of the sculpture. All you need to do is to roll this into a simple ball shape. After that, take your baking paper and place it on top of the ball you've just rolled and use this to flatten out the clay. Next up, take two smaller pieces of clay and split it in half. This will be used to make the arms. To do this, simply roll the clay into a sausage-like shape, leaving it slightly thicker at one end. As you can see, I rolled this in my hands and then moved to the baking parchment to smooth it out. After the arms, I moved on to making the body. I tried this a different way at first and it didn't really work, so I'd recommend doing it the way I'm showing you now, and that's to roll two sausage shapes slightly thicker than the arms and press them together before smoothing out into a more body-like shape. You'll want to make sure there's no line between the two sausage clay shapes, otherwise it'll look really obvious that you've just stuck two pieces together. So try smoothing this out either with your finger or with the baking paper or even with the tools from your clay set. You can try this by rolling the body first and then attaching the legs, but I found that this was the best way to keep the definition of that leg shape whilst also keeping the continuity between the legs and the body like a real life piece of gingerbread. Take your time to get the right shape and make sure that all of your proportions are correct. In this case, the head is slightly larger than the body, so don't worry if it looks slightly out of proportion. The idea is you can make it what you want it. Once you've finished crafting each of the pieces, it's time to stick your sculpture together. To ensure that none of the pieces break apart during or after the baking, I'd recommend using some specific polymer clay glue. This just helps to ensure that all of the pieces are firmly stuck together. I'd never actually used this before, so I did want to test it out before gluing my pieces straight away in case the glue came out really quickly or in case I ruined my design. So I did test it on a piece of baking paper really quickly to see how fast the glue came out, and then I could judge how much I'd need when sticking my pieces together. It's worth noting that this won't dry straight away. I'm pretty sure that it's meant to dry as it bakes, so don't be alarmed if your pieces still feel sticky or gluey or wet. It will dry properly once it's been baked. To avoid cross-contamination, I quickly wiped down all of my tools and my hands before proceeding to the next step, because I didn't want random bits of clay or different colours smearing across my sculpture or other pieces that I was creating. Now it's time to add in the details. For my gingerbread man, I wanted to add a little nose, eyes, mouth, buttons, and even a cute little bow tie. So to do this, take some of your red polymer clay and begin sculpting the individual pieces. I'd recommend creating 2 teardrop-shaped pieces of clay and then slowly flattening them out, and then roll a small ball that will be placed on top of your 2 teardrop shapes to stick them together and represent the knot where the bow tie meets in the middle. I even went in with one of my tools to add in little creases to make the bow tie look more detailed and intricate. Again, I'd recommend using glue to stick this piece on, with it being slightly heavier than, say, the buttons or the cheeks or the eyes, which I didn't use glue for because I figured that they could be easily pressed into the sculpture. Next, I used a tiny amount of clay rolled into a small ball for the mouth and gently pressed that into the face of my gingerbread man. Then, taking my peach pink coloured clay, I rolled 2 small balls to make cute little rosy cheeks. After that, I used the white clay to make small icing detail on the gingerbread man. I added this to the forehead, the arms and the legs to look like one of your classic iced gingerbread men at Christmas. I certainly took my time with this step. It can be quite tricky trying to mould the clay in the direction you want it to, especially when you're trying to create a squiggly line, and the clay is so thin that it might be prone to breaking, so definitely be delicate in this stage. Remember, this doesn't have to be neat. After all, it is a handmade, crafted ornament, and I suppose it has a bit more authenticity to show that you created it rather than a perfect store-bought bauble. Finally, taking my black clay, I followed that same process of taking 2 small balls, rolling them up, and then pressing them into the face to make the eyes. The last detail I'm adding to my clay sculpture is these cute light blue buttons. Again, I rolled the clay into little balls, pressed them into the body, and then I used my tool to create a small indentation to show that button shape. You can also use your knife maybe to create a crisscross shape instead, depending on the way you want your button to look. Obviously, you want your ornament to hang, so don't forget to add in the eye pin into the top of your clay before baking. You probably won't be able to stick this in after it's baked, so it's a really crucial step in the clay making process. And now it's baking time. I don't want to recommend a specific time or temperature to bake your clay sculpture at, because each clay modeling kit will have different times and temperatures in the instruction manual, so make sure to read yours. I'm fairly sure that my clay went in for about 20 to 30 minutes, but you've just got to keep an eye on it and make sure it isn't burning or going brittle and snapping. Ta-da! This is the final piece. What do you think, guys? Let me know if you managed to successfully make this in the comments below, and thanks for watching. Bye!